All right. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Chiropractic Student Podcast. Today we are joined by Chris Chippendale, someone I met on an adjusting course, and just basically from then had a little chat, set out a podcast, got in contact, and we've just set it up from there. And I'm really excited because you do a lot for the community already, and I feel like a lot of the students are going to take some really great information from what you have to offer. So first of all, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Lovely. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Amazing. The first thing I always ask everyone is just, could you just give us a little bit about your background, sort of where you studied, your journey through chiropractic, how it all began?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, I'm a second-gen chiropractor. My dad was a chiropractor. I was the weird kid at school who didn't want to be an astronaut or a race car driver. I was like 5 years old, like, I want to be a chiropractor. It wasn't a decision as much as it was just a fact that I was always aware of.
Cool.
So that was quite cool. I had a really lucky start in that respect. Like, I worked on the front desk over like summer holidays as a teenager and stuff like that. Then went straight out of school, went straight to WEOC, studied there, graduated 2011, and came back to work in the family practice with my mum. My dad retired a while ago, but my mum runs the practice. So, started working with her and then just gradually have built it up. And now I'm the clinical director of both clinics. So we've got a team of, I think, 8 associate chiropractors now, 4 or 5 massage therapists in a couple of clinics. And I've been really doing all the training side of stuff for the associates. Everybody except one came to us as a new graduate. So that's been quite like, some like Ross, he was like 2 years below me at WEOC. So he was like the first time I trained up another associate. And then, everyone else apart from Sam, who I think was out 3 years when he came to see us, they all came straight from uni, which is really cool because I love training new graduates.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, so what is it about a new grad that you love and love to train and bring on board?
I mean, I think because I can remember what it was like being that new graduate, and like, because my dad had retired a while ago, like I didn't really have a mentor in the same way. Like, I had a really lucky start in a lot of respects, and I'm not somebody who can go, oh, I just built myself from the ground up with no help whatsoever. I was really lucky with that. But actually having somebody to take me under their wing, there were some experienced associates there, but they were kind of associates, and it's a little bit of like, oh, the boss's son, is he going to get all the new patients? There's some of that fears come in. So they were all really helpful, but there wasn't anyone who's like, right, I'm going to take you under my wing and mentor you. And so I kind of had to do a lot of just trial and error stuff by myself. And like, I'm not complaining about that. It would have been quicker and easier with a mentor, but I think it's one of those things, like, you often like to give the next generation the things you didn't have. It's like with parents, if you've got kids, you go, okay, if I didn't get that as a kid, I'm going to make sure my kid gets it. So it's a little bit like that. And I can just remember graduating, like, all the imposter syndrome, all the fear, all the, oh my God, I've got to go out there and act like I know what I'm talking about. And suddenly, especially when you graduate and you're making a professional wage, all that fear and anxiety. And I can still remember what that's like. And when I realized, my focus is more communication, but when I realized how effective that could be and how you can actually communicate in a way that doesn't leave you anxious going into that report findings, or worried about seeming like one of those chiropractors who's all about the money, which most patients never think about. But I can remember the difference that made for me, and seeing that in new graduates, like at the start of their career, getting it and going, okay, right, like, it took me 5 years to work this stuff out. Seeing them take it and run with it, I love that. It makes me really excited for the future. It makes me really excited for where chiropractic as a whole can go.
I don't really normally ask this question. So then where do you see the future of chiropractic going if we can continue to give the students?
I mean, it's funny because I don't know. Like, I have different ideas of different times. I think where I personally would like to go, Stefan Vossen, who we just spoke about, who's a recent, his multidisciplinary model I find fascinating, and I really love that idea of the chiropractor coordinating a team of other professionals to give that really holistic care. I think that's great, and I think that's something we're uniquely placed to do, because we have that clinical skill, we have that assessment diagnostic skill. We come from a more holistic, complementary, alternative background. So we can actually draw on, you know, medicine's just getting its handle on, oh, it seems like diet could affect inflammation. And that's something that you go back to, you know, that's in the green books. That's so far back in
we've been doing that for so long.
Yeah. So I think we're really, really well placed to be able to do that. But that's just me. That's where I would like my practice to go. Is that where every chiropractor should go? Probably not. You know, I wouldn't want to kind of force my view on everybody there. But for me, I think the lowest hanging fruit is down to patient-centered care. And that's something that everyone's using now. And it's like, I kind of wish I hadn't called my company patient-centered training, because it's such a buzzword now and everybody says it. And then you get into conversation, I find that a lot of people don't quite know what that means yet. But I mean, like in terms of the experience they have through medicine, especially over here with the NHS now, like patient-centered care does not exist whatsoever. And the bar is so low for suddenly being a clinician who can communicate well, not only can listen and cares about their patients, but communicates that back. You know, when you see patients get that, they go, oh my God, I've never been to anybody like this before. And that's where you can really start to then make those longer term lifestyle changes. You can start to see, okay, you came in for back pain, but now we're building a relationship, we're building trust, and you're open to very different ideas of working with a chiropractor compared to what you started with. And it opens up the door. And I think no matter what technique you do, if you're in SOT, Gonstead, diversified act, like doesn't matter what the technique is, that will change. But the ability to communicate and connect with the patient never does. And for me, I think if we could be the profession that does the best job at doing that, then like we're unstoppable. Like, you know, you can't really,
I agree. It's
can't really get rid of a profession that does that.
I was talking to someone this weekend, and we were talking about social media and the phone use being a huge distraction, but it's communication and it's social media. And we were saying like how, you know, like TikTok and Instagram, we were like, I bet you any money, BJ Palmer would be like one of the top 10 most followed people on TikTok, on Instagram, because he would be non-stop. He would be relentless putting out like quality content. And it's like, why are we, there's such a weird construction around it. And misconception. I find it really fascinating. So you went through university. Let's have a little bit of a whistle-stop tour going through. First of all, did you love university? And second of all, a lot of students are thinking this, how did you get through it?
So university is interesting. There's bits of it I loved. There's bits of it that just scared the hell out of me, frankly. Like sure. I always did like well at school. I was like a straight academic kid, like English, math, science, traditional, that stuff. I did well with that. I did well with exams. And then I got to university, and it wasn't that the difficulty was a massive jump. It's just the volume and the lack of accountability. It's like, this is up to you. There'll be a test in 9 months. If you haven't studied that or you don't know it, like you're only getting help unless you ask. If you decide to slack off and party a bit too much in your first term and not turn up to half the lectures and stuff, well then, Chris, you're going to have a tough time in the summer. So the first kind of lots of exams were a wake-up call of like, oh wow, okay, I kind of need to take this seriously. And then I mean, there's times I can remember like being really interested in stuff, but not seeing what it had to do with chiropractic. Like everybody picks on histology labs and looking down microscopes, and like I love that. I properly geeked out on that. But there was a sense of like, how is this going to inform my work with patients? And I definitely like, I didn't pay attention to physiology as much. I was like, we're more anatomy, like the physiology, pathology. That's for other professions. And then it was only really when I graduated, I realized, oh, you know what? If you have any interest in wellness whatsoever, like you need to know the physiology. Yeah. Like if you want to be able to give decent advice beyond just all I do is like MSK, anatomical structural. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to start talking about diet, if you want to start talking about stress, allostasis, all these things, a number of the subjects that I didn't pay the most attention to in college became really important. I'd say as far as how I survived it, I think just keeping focused on the outcome. I think it doesn't matter whether you're loving university or you're hating it or you're really struggling. Just keep focused on the outcome. And I would say whenever you can, observe other chiropractors, like on the holidays, find somebody back home. I was quite fortunate because my family had this business. So I would often work on the front desk to earn a bit of money in the holidays. So I was working in the chiropractic clinic and I would have discussions with, my chiropractor then, he was still a good friend of mine, very different practitioner to me. And, I would come back saying, oh, this and that at uni and third and fourth, this is how we've managed the case. And she'd be going like, yeah, I would do it very differently, but that's just me. We still practice really, really differently, but it was having somebody to kind of bounce those ideas off and see, oh, okay, like they teach you this at uni. There's other people who do that. You could do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But yeah, I would say just keep focus on the outcome. Like you're going to get through it. Like knuckle down and just study, for the exams. The best thing I did actually, and I wish I did this earlier on, was my final year. I treated it like a 9-to-5 job. So I went up to student clinic 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And if I wasn't doing a shift, I was in the common room just doing work. And that worked for a couple of reasons. It meant that actually, if somebody said, hey, do you want to go out on Tuesday night? I could go, actually, yeah, I'm up to date. But also just in terms of getting the numbers up, it was easier because if you're always in the clinic, you're always around when they come in and go, we've just had a new patient, so-and-so, their clinician can't make it. Does anybody want it? So in terms of getting the numbers up, that was a bit easy because I was always there to go, yes, please, I'll take that patient. And I think if I'd done that right from the start, if you know what, this is a 9-to-5 job, crunch time around exams, yeah, you might have to do a bit of work on the weekends and that sort of thing. But looking at it like that meant that I could enjoy switching off in the evenings and weekends and not feel guilty because I was behind or I should have been studying or that sort of thing.
That's really good, actually. I like that because I noticed only really in the final year, I started taking it more like that because I wanted a social life and I was finding I was cramming towards the end and it was just not okay for my brain. That I did something similar. I basically just had certain days and times set aside for just chiropractic, and then it left you with your evenings. So instead of being unproductive during the day when everyone else is at work or at the clinic, you then had the same free time together, and it made that balance a lot more balanced, like that work-life social balance.
And the stress is so bad for memory as well. I was really good at cramming, which meant that I did all right in the exams. But then after the summer holidays, we come back next year. I'm like, oh God, I've got to relearn half of year 2 now. Because that stuff just leaked out.
It went in and went out.
Yeah. I could hold on to it for 48 hours to get through the Viva. And then it's, so it's much more effective as well, which especially when you get into third and fourth and final years, like that massively reduces the workload when you're like, oh yes, I can still remember that we did X, Y, Z back then.
A cool thing I like to ask is, like resource wise, were there any books or resources or people or podcasts, anything like that really stood out, that as soon as I say what is the go-to like top 2 or 3 resources that you would recommend for a student, and they don't even necessarily have to be chiropractic based, that just help you grow as a person, what would those 3 be? And maybe a little bit about why.
Man, that's a good question, because I don't know that I got really into podcasts at uni, but there weren't really chiropractic podcasts. We're going back a little bit. This was like the early days of podcasting. Like you would listen to them on an actual iPod, which most people
with the little finger thing.
Yeah. It's like, what a device just for carrying around music and podcasts. That's weird. Just use a phone.
But like maybe post-university, like things that you've read or seen or course that you
I mean, to be honest, mine, the stuff that's influenced me the most and the stuff that's really helped me grow as a clinician mostly isn't to do with chiropractic. That's not to say that it shouldn't be, but I've always found that when I grow as a person and I work on myself, I become a better chiropractor. And when I grow as a chiropractor, I become a better person. So, yes, my bias is communication, but the nice thing with communication skills is they have nothing to do with chiropractic, in that they're just something that we use with everybody all the time.
Like what?
So for example, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the ones I really like the most is 5 love languages, which is actually more to do with couples, but it opened my eyes to seeing people communicate in different ways, people express themselves in different ways, and different people have different needs. So rather than going, if I was a patient, this is what I would want to know in this order at this much detail, and just giving everybody what I wanted them to know, I could then go, okay, this person, they seem a bit more analytical. They want details. So although I'm not a details guy, I'm going to make the effort to go into a bit more detail here. Or this person is really just blunt, direct, type A. They're trying to get on the bench while I'm still talking to them because they just want to get on with it. Okay, I'm not going to go into all the cool anatomical stuff and all the fascinating details that I'm geeking out on. I'm just going to go right, short and sweet. How can I deliver a report of findings in like 3 minutes to this guy so we can just get on with it? So 5 love languages was a good one for that. The other one is the social styles model, which if you Google, there's quite a lot of stuff out there. It's a really handy way of just identifying where the patient's at in terms of how they like to be communicated with, and then modifying your style accordingly. So there's 4 different styles, which means it's simple enough to use with patients. It's not another one for me personally is the Enneagram. I found that a really useful personality model, but it's too complex for clinic. I would encourage anyone to check it out. It's a little bit esoteric. It's a little bit out there in places, but that helped me grow as a person a lot. It helped me really identify my strengths and weaknesses and things that would, areas for me to work on. But there's 9 types. And it's very personal, so it doesn't work in clinic. So for yourself, I would say the Enneagram's a great tool, or like Myers-Briggs or the Big 5 personality. Any of these personality models can really help you work out more about who you are. But then the social styles will help you work out, how does this patient want me to communicate, and how can I then modify myself so I'm speaking their language rather than just expecting them to speak mine and getting frustrated when it doesn't work and blaming the patient. And
I think that's one of the big things that I find, like with communication, is a lot of people can understand this. It's then the implementation, like how are you actually putting this into physical? How you
what's the framework? And I think that's something that I
you
really missed as a new graduate, was a framework.
That's the thing.
People say, you need to talk about this, you need to cover that. Yes, certain patients want X, Y, Z. I'm like, that's all this knowledge out there floating around in a cloud is great. But when I'm with the patient, I can't just be looking through this random cloud of concepts going, which one shall I apply today, while I'm trying to, appear like a competent professional and assess and diagnose, and, be thinking 3 steps ahead. Like having a framework to go, okay, they've done that. That means this box is probably useful. So I'm going to look in this box. Oh, okay. Direct listening, great. I'm going to use that with this person.
I literally remember
like having a tidy house versus a mess. You're looking around for everywhere, everything all the time, instead of going, cutlery, that's in the cutlery drawer, I'll just go over there.
Of course, well, it's organized. It's do it this way. I remember being in an adjustment class, and it was like end of year 3, you're about to go into clinic, and I was like, brilliant, cool, so let's get down to it. Instead of you saying, right, adjust SIJ, right, I went up to my teacher, lecturer, and I was like, cool, so if someone has sciatica down their right leg, what adjustment do I do? Because we were never told, like, oh, cool, they have facet irritation in the C5, like obviously that tells you where to go, but like, what adjustment do I do? Like, what do I do? Like, so you kind of, as soon as you graduate or get into clinic, no one's actually telling you, like, okay, cool, can you go down, palpate T4 and adjust here, please? Here's no reason other than me telling you to. It's that implementing what you've learned to, I don't know, it was such an eye-opener for me, because I was like, we were learning about all these different things, like a stenosis and all this other stuff, and facet irritation, and like, I don't know, you do discs, and it's like,
and then people they talk about their techniques like it's another tool for your toolbox, and like I get so triggered when I hear that now, because it's like, I'll buy you a toolbox tomorrow. That doesn't make you a carpenter. You can't just go to B&Q, buy all the tools and go, I've got all the tools in my toolbox. It's like, you don't know how to use any of them. Get one tool. Get really good at that tool. Like, I would always suggest adjusting, okay, maybe every chiropractor doesn't adjust now, but like get really, really good at that before you start thinking about adding other techniques in. And it's the same with like communication, like focus on one thing, get good at that before you try and do everything better all the time. Because it just doesn't work. The toolbox analogy frustrates me because I heard that and I started doing that and it led to a rockier first couple of years than it needed to.
It was horrible. Cool. And let's say you have like a couple of students who come and observe your clinic and they come up to you and they say, Chris, I'm really struggling to like see the end goal. I like the end outcome. I'm observing clinics. I've done all this stuff. I've looked into these personality traits, and they say, "Can you just give me some advice? Like, what shall I do? What if someone says to you, like, what do I do? What do you say to students? What do you say to them to get them going? What's your advice?"
I mean, I would say, I used to go, look, just trust me. Like, this is it'll get better. It's a great profession. Like, it's a wonderful thing to be able to do for people. And the future's so bright. And, I don't understand why everyone isn't a chiropractor. Like, it's going to be amazing. You just got to trust me. But more recent, I've had some conversations with some new graduates over the last couple of years who are coming out and being like, I don't think this is for me. And I want to go, just trust me, it will be. But then we chat and I realize, actually, yeah, this might not be for you. Like actually working with people in this quite intimate setting and a one-on-one, and it's quite an intense way to work with people. It's not like a GP where, you see the new patient visits 5 minutes. Like you have to get to know people and really connect with them if you want to get those results. And some people got into chiropractic because they wanted to be mechanics of the spine. That's what I thought it was going to be naively when I graduated. It's like, oh, okay, so it's like a car. We'll find the broken bit and then we'll fix the broken bit and problem solved. And then you get out and find, oh, these spines have owners. And actually like 70% of the job is dealing with the owner because they can go and completely muck the spine up again and you have no control on that. And that isn't for everybody. And there are some people who graduate and then realize, actually, this isn't the job for me. So I would get really clear on that first of all, because it would be, if the earlier you can recognize that, the less painful it will be. And I would say do that again by shadowing other chiropractors. If you look around and every style of practice you see and everything makes you go, I don't think I want to do that, then you've got some thinking to do. You've got some soul searching to do. If you find a practice and go, oh, I'd love to learn more about that, that looks fun, then spend more time there. Yeah. Find other clinics. Ask that chiropractor, hey, who else do you know who practices like this? Mm-hmm. And spend time doing that, because your brain works in terms of outcome visioning. Like if it can see that, oh, this is a clear vision of the goal I'm looking for. This is why like goal planning and like journaling and all this kind of stuff work. It's like, I was quite fortunate that I was coming home every holiday to see the practice. Yeah. So I had a very, very clear picture of what my life was going to look like. When you don't have that and the future's all cloudy and murky, then it's really hard to be inspired or motivated. And you're just going to be freaked out that you're making the wrong turn. You're sort of can't see the wood for the trees kind of thing. There's a program called self-authoring. I think it's selfauthoring.com or something like that. That I did a few years ago. It's quite a good thing. They have 4 modules. There's one called future authoring, which is basically just write out a plan for your life for the next couple of years. And nobody asks young people to do that. Like the vast majority of students I speak to, they haven't really got a clear idea of, okay, what's your plan post-graduation? Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years? It's something I ask everyone when they come and interview for us. And they often are going like, I don't know. It's like, okay, fair enough.
Never asked me that before.
Because this is your life. This is your career. And you're the only one who's responsible for helping you get what you want. So, but anyway, to say, spend time in the practices you want to be in and picture yourself doing that. And that will make it easier. It's not necessarily going to make it easy. And if you do it and you realize, okay, this sort of one-on-one, practice with people isn't for me, that's okay. Like there's plenty of people who started in chiropractic and went elsewhere. You can go back into teaching, go back into academia, go into a different profession. Like there's lots of other pathways you can take, and it's okay. It's much better to do that than practice for 10 years and burn yourself out because you really actually don't like the practice. You don't like what the job entails. I would hope that's very few, because God knows we need more chiropractors in the world. But it's okay if that's the case. This is not the job for everybody.
100%. And it's even the case of my chiropractic is going to be so different to your chiropractic, and understanding that I know so many people who have been to like 1 or 2 clinics and that's chiropractic for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there's so much more out there that people are like, oh, I don't want to be a chiropractor anymore, like, and they're at uni. And I'm like, I don't think that's the case sometimes. I just don't think you've explored chiropractic enough.
Yeah, and see, there's a difference there between I really know what chiropractic is and I don't think it's for me, and a difference in go like, this profession kind of sucks. Like, it's like, whoa. Like, you might have seen a couple of versions of chiropractic that weren't right for you and thought, God, if I had to work like that, that would suck. Like, fair enough. Go find somebody we're fairly MSK in the way that we practice it. The vast majority of people who come in to see us are MSK. That's my style of practice. We have massage therapists. I use acupuncture, mobilizing a little bit of soft tissue. But that, we're fairly kind of mainstream chiro. I went and shadowed a network chiropractor a few years ago, just because I was like, I keep hearing about this thing.
Yeah.
And the people who practice like me say it's this wacky, crazy thing. And the people who practice like that go, oh my God, it's amazing. Like, I don't know what it's like. So I went and found a network chiro and shadowed, and it's really interesting. So like, I'm not gonna practice that way. It's not for me.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, I know what that network thing is. And when other people talk about it, I'm like, that's actually not what it looked like to me.
No.
Like, it was. So I would say, get out of your comfort zone and find practices, even if you think, oh, I don't think I'd want to work like that. Like, try it, because you don't know. And you might pick up one thing and go, yeah, I didn't like it for this, but actually that bit was really cool.
100%. And I think that's like the main takeaway from like today's chat, is just broadening the horizon a little bit and understanding like your end goal. It doesn't even have to be specific. Like, I don't have to be this chiropractor. I have to be like Chris. I can be a clinic owner in 5 years that looks generally something like a multidisciplinary practice. That is,
and you don't even have to be a clinic owner, because I've seen a lot of clinic owners where really in their heart of hearts we're happier as associates, because it's like being a good chiropractor and being a good entrepreneur, very, very different skill sets. Very different. And some, everybody assumes the pathway is like college, graduate, associate for a few years, set up your own. Doesn't have to be. And some people, like Simon Billings, he's like one of the chiropractic leaders in nutrition and functional medicine. He doesn't own his own practice. He's an associate with Steve Williams, and that works really, really well for him. He has his own functional medicine practice, but what he's doing there works so well for him. He doesn't necessarily need all the headaches of managing staff and a business and overheads and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, if you find a practice that really works for you and you're happy with, you don't have to then go and set up on your own. If you want to, great. Like, eventually for me, like I'm very much an entrepreneur. I'm like master my own destiny. I want the freedom to go do whatever I want. So that's something that would matter to me, but that doesn't matter to everybody.
Wow. I feel like I'm going to go away and do so many of these like self-help things. I love it. You talk a little bit, obviously, about communication as being your thing, and you help a lot of people with communication. Could you just tell us a little bit about what sort of things you're working on at the moment? Because I know you're doing a lot for the community.
Yeah, definitely. So I set up patient-centered training in 2017 because I started doing workshops and seminars around patient communication, patient management, this sort of thing. I just found the stuff that I really wanted when I was a graduate wasn't really out there. There was most communication was based on how to sell your version of chiropractic to the patient and how to convince them to buy what you wanted for them. And I tried it and I got pretty good at it, but it never quite sat as well with me. And then, so I started finding out myself and doing research and going, oh, this is actually what I wanted. Put on a few seminars, that got some interest. And now I've put together an online course for experienced chiropractors, which is the Happy Patient Project. But for students and new graduates, I'm quite heavily involved in the Royal College now and the PRTS. So we recently completely upgraded the 3 seminars. They were delivered in person, now they're online for obvious reasons. But I run the communication webinars for all of those now, which is great fun for me because it's seeing people who are just starting out going, oh wow, okay, I don't have to go into a report of findings with a knot in my stomach, and
Mm.
I don't have to be worrying about can the patient afford this or all that sort of thing. So certainly for new graduates, that's the main way that I'm working with them. And I'm starting a new project this summer for clinic owners, for sort of helping them train their associates in this stuff. Because clinic owners are often in a bind where they take on associates because they're spending all their time treating patients. They want the help and they want a bit more time to work on the practice, a bit more time with their family. But then the associates come in and need a lot of training. So they're going, well, I either treat patients to make enough money to keep the business afloat, or I train the associates as an investment. But meanwhile, especially new grads, no offense, you guys lose most of the patients because you haven't had the years of experience to build that quickly. So I'm going to be working with them to help them train their team, basically.
And so I love it. And I'm always very inspired by chiropractors who are going out of their way to help other chiropractors and students. I feel like that's what I'm really trying to do. That's what you're really trying to do. It's the same mindset, like, but it's from just such different perspectives. And I just thank you for that. Like, I think that's really amazing of you and very selfless. And thank you for doing that for the profession.
My pleasure. I mean, I wouldn't say it was selfless because I get a lot from it personally. Like, I really enjoy that. You know, I am an extrovert. I quite like being the center of attention. So you know,
that's why I have a podcast.
Honest with you, if it was a grind and I hated it, I would probably find another way of helping. But yeah, for me, seeing other people succeed makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside too. So
100%. Amazing, Chris. How can people get in contact? Like, where's your practice? What's it called? And can people get in contact and come and talk?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to contact me is just chrischippendale@gmail.com, which I'm sure we can pop in the notes.
I'll pop it in.
You can find me online. Patientcentered.co.uk is my communication website. So you can find me there. You can find me facebook.com/patient-centered. We'll get the spelling right because I did a dumb thing and picked a word that's spelt differently in the US and the UK.
Is it ER or RE?
CENTRED. So you can find me online there. Our practice is Seven Oaks Chiropractic Clinic. We are bang on Junction 5 on the M25. So Southeast Kent, just outside of London. Love having people come to observe, whether that's students, experienced chiros, whatever. So if you want to come observe and just see my particular version of chiropractic, see if that's for you, then absolutely shoot me an email and we can definitely make that work.
Well, you heard it. And I'll be fighting everyone for that spot because I'll be
definitely, man. Yeah, it'd be good to see you again. It's been what? When was it? Was it March we met, or March, April, something like that?
Oh, it was Tom's course up in Lincoln, wasn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, Matt, no, honestly, you as well, more than welcome. That'd be great
100%. Fun. Amazing. Right. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've got so much resources and information. And thank you for everything that you're doing for the profession as well.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Lewis. Really enjoyed it.